Hello guys and welcome to another Disney reading. Today we have one of our longer books again, Disney Wonderful World of Reading, and we're doing Disney Pixar WALL-E. WALL-E! So, let's have a look. Very nice. Right, it's a new book so it doesn't want to stay open. We're travelling through space. Can you see all of the stars? It is so pretty out here. But what kind of planet is this? Do you recognise it? Yes, it's planet Earth. But it's so dirty. There are piles of rubbish everywhere. Humans no longer live here. For many, many, many years, they have all been living out in space in a big spaceship waiting to come home. But who is this little robot? Let's see. It's WALL-E. He cleans up the mess left by the humans. He has been working for 700 years, and now he is all alone. All the other robots have broken down. Actually, he's not completely alone. He has a pet cockroach who follows him faithfully everywhere he goes. This is WALL-E's story. WALL-E. Whoa, I think we've lost focus. Dear me. WALL-E lived in a cosy trailer with his pet cockroach. To pass the time, WALL-E collected interesting things that could be found among the rubbish. One day he found a plant. He had never seen a plant before. He put on his favourite video. The little robot loved to watch the actors dancing, singing and holding hands. After all these years, he was lonely. He wanted to hold hands with someone too. Then one day, WALL-E saw a light coming from the sky. A spaceship landed and set something down on the ground. What on earth? It was a robot, just like WALL-E, except that it was a girl. WALL-E watched her amazed. She is so beautiful, he thought to himself, and this new robot could fly too. When the spaceship left, the new robot flew around as if she was looking for something. What could she be searching for? WALL-E had lived alone on Earth for so long that he longed for company, so he followed the new arrival wherever she went. Suddenly she stopped. Has she found something? Wondered WALL-E, but instead she started shooting at WALL-E with a secret weapon hidden in her arm. She didn't know that he just wanted to be friends. Luckily, WALL-E was able to hide from the shots. This new robot was pretty tough. Suddenly, a fierce sandstorm swept in. WALL-E rushed into the storm to rescue the new robot and take her to shelter in his trailer. The new robot asked WALL-E his name. "Oh," sighed WALL-E happily. "It's WALL-E." "WALL-E," she repeated. WALL-E had never before heard anyone say his name so beautifully. Then he asked the new robot to tell him her name. "Eve," she said. "E?" He tried. Eva? He had only one last try. Evie. Not bad, WALL-E. WALL-E showed Eve some of the interesting things in his collection, including a light bulb, which lit up in her hand. WALL-E asked Eve to watch his favourite video and dance to the music with him. WALL-E showed her how to move to the music, but Eve wasn't used to dancing. She spun around and around so fast she slammed right into WALL-E. WALL-E was thrown against a shelf and broke off one of his eyes. Eve was very sorry for causing the accident, but being broken was no problem for a robot like WALL-E. He found an old robot eye on one of his shelves and fixed himself. Eve saw that WALL-E was a clever and fun robot. She was definitely beginning to like him. WALL-E showed his most special treasure, the plant, to his new friend. Eve put the plant in her chest cavity and then she shut down completely. WALL-E frantically tried to revive her. "Eva!" he called, but it was no use. WALL-E tried everything he could think of to wake Eve up. He took her for a walk, protecting her from the rain with an umbrella. He even took her to the roof of his trailer so she could get some energy from the sun, but Eve still didn't wake up. Soon the spaceship came back to pick up Eve. Wally couldn't let Eve leave without him. He told the cockroach to stay put and held on tight to the side of the ship as it took off into space. "Eva!" Wally yelled as he knocked on the window, but Eve was still fast asleep inside the ship. The ship headed towards a giant starliner called the Axiom. On board the massive starliner, Eve was whisked away on a hovering transporter. Wally hurried after it, anxious not to lose sight of Eve. Mo, a little cleaner bot, was shocked at how grubby Wally was from his 700 years of sorting rubbish. Mo scuttled behind Wally, cleaning up his dirty tracks. The Axiom had some funny-looking robots aboard it, but hold on, they weren't robots at all. They were humans who had been in space for so long they had forgotten how to use their bodies. They travelled around by hover chair, eyes glued on their personal video monitors, unaware of what was going on around them. But Wally had no time to think about them now. Where was Eve? Eve was awake again. She was with the Axiom's captain and Auto, the ship's autopilot. "Eva!" Wally cried happily, but Eve was on an important mission and couldn't talk to Wally. Wally hid and overheard the captain receiving an important message. "Congratulations, Captain. Your robot has found life on Earth. This means it is safe to return home. Put the plant in the hollow detector and the spaceship will fly to Earth." "Where is the plant?" demanded the captain. It had disappeared. Eve glared at Wally. Had he taken it? The captain finally noticed Wally. He decided Wally was filthy and Eve was malfunctioning. So he ordered Auto's assistant robot, Go 4, to take them to the repair ward. The repair robots examined Eve. Wally didn't like that, especially when they took off her arm. Wally was convinced that the repair bots were hurting Eve. Determined to rescue her, he charged into the room and grabbed Eve's blaster arm. Eve tried to reassure him that everything was fine, but it was too late. Wally accidentally fired the blaster backwards, and the doors to the repair ward blew apart. All the reject bots who lived in the ward ran for the escape route. They were free! Wally was their hero. Wally and Eve dashed out of their repair ward. Now they were on the run. Pictures of Eve and Wally flashed on the security screens, and the loudspeakers boomed out a warning caution. "Rogue robots!" The security bots tried to stop them, but Eve grabbed Wally, and they flew out of reach. But what could Eve do with her lovesick robot? Eve decided to send Wally back to Earth, so she took him to the ship's escape pod. But Wally wasn't going anywhere without Eve. Suddenly they noticed something inside the escape pod. It was the missing plant. Go 4, Auto's assistant robot, had stolen it, and now he was planning to eject it out into deep space, so that the giant starliner would never return home to Earth. Wally entered the pod to get the plant, but oh no, the pod blasted off into space with Wally. Wally pushed every button, desperately trying to stop the pod, but will self-destruct in 20 seconds. The computer informed him. Then Wally spotted a fire extinguisher. He remembered from his rubbish gathering that an extinguisher was a bit like a miniature foam-powered rocket. But was there time to escape? There was a huge explosion as the pod self-destructed. "Wally!" Eve yelled. Was Wally safe? Suddenly he came zooming into sight, riding the fire extinguisher. Inside the spaceship, 2 passengers turned off their screens and watched the 2 happy robots outside the window. They looked as if they were dancing. Wally showed Eve the plant. She was so relieved that she leaned towards Wally and rested her head against his. A spark of electricity passed between them. A robot kiss? "Look, Auto, Earth is amazing," said the captain as he watched his monitors. "These are farms. Humans would put seeds into the ground, pour water on them, and they'd grow food." For the first time in his life, the captain was interested in something. He didn't even notice Wally and Eve flying by his window. The two robots zoomed back into the ship through an open hatch. Eve planned to take the plant to the captain, and they could all go back to Earth. She told Wally to wait, then flew up a rubber chute and disappeared. But Wally wasn't much good at waiting. He began to think that perhaps he should follow her. Eve burst out of the chute. and showed the captain the plant. "How did you find it?" the captain gasped. "At last we can go back home. I wonder what Earth looks like now." Then the captain remembered that Eve had recorded images of her time on Earth. He placed a device on Eve's head and they both watched her memories. The captain was shocked to see the Earth so polluted, with piles of rubbish everywhere. Then he looked at the plant. "You didn't give up, did you?" he said to the plant. Then he declared, "We have to go back. There is still hope for Earth." And you saw how tenderly Wally took care of her while she was sleeping, and was filled with strange and strong emotions for this rusty little robot. The captain wanted to go home, but Otto had been programmed to stay in space forever because he thought Earth was still dangerous. "Sir, I insist you give me the plant," said the Otto. "On this spaceship you will survive." "I don't want to survive," said the captain. "I want to live." They started to struggle over the plant. Suddenly, Go4, Otto assistant, used his suspension beam to grab the plant and hurl it right down the rubbish chute. Was the plant gone forever? Wait. Who was that peeking out of the rubbish chute with a plant on his head? It was Wally. Poor Wally was confused. Everyone was shouting about the plant. He didn't realise it was on top of his head. Angry Otto zapped Wally and he tumbled back down the chute, followed by Eve and the little cleaner bot. Wally was badly damaged. Eve was so worried that she didn't even care about her mission anymore. She tossed the plant away impatiently. "Earth!" Earth, yeah, whispered Wally, weakly as he picked up the plant. Now Eve understood. If they put the plant in the hollow detector, the ship would fly to Earth, where she could use Wally's collection of spare parts to fix him. Just then they heard the captain's voice on the intercom. "Psst! Hey, it's Captain. I'm locked in my room. Eve, bring the plant to the hollow detector. Hurry! Otto's probably going to cut me off." And then there was silence. Eve and Wally rushed to the hollow detector, followed by all the reject bots who came along to help out. The whole ship was in commotion. The security bots started fighting the reject bots. The captain opened up the hollow detector, and now it was up to Eve to put the plant in it. But still Otto would not give up and struggled with the captain. The captain was losing his battle with Otto, who was just too powerful. Otto flung the captain to the floor and started tipping the ship, shaking it from side to side. All the human passengers were pitched out of their chairs, and worst of all, Wally lost his grip on the plant. Otto hit the button that closed the hollow detector. The little cleaner bot found the plant. All the bots rushed to get the plant back to Eve before the hollow detector closed down fully. But again, Wally saved the day. Even though he was badly hurt, he rolled under the hollow detector to stop the door from coming down. The captain was losing his fight with Otto. Suddenly, he caught sight of the screen. Wally was being crushed by the hollow detector, but he was still struggling to hold it up. The captain gathered all his strength and courage, stood on his 2 feet and took the first step in his life. He staggered towards the robot. "Otto," he said, "you are relieved of duty," as he flicked the autopilot's off button. The passengers watching the action on the big screen all cheered. Wally couldn't hold the hollow detector any longer. He was being slowly crushed. Eve, with one last effort, managed to throw the plant into the hollow detector before it closed completely. "Plant origin verified. Set course for Earth," said the spaceship's computer. "Victory! The mission was accomplished. Now they could all go home." As the ship's computer showed destination Earth, the humans on the ship tried to get up and walk. They looked like giant toddlers. Eve lifted Wally up. "Wally!" she crooned. But the brave little robot was lifeless. The ship reached light speed and everyone braced themselves for the ride back to Earth. The little cockroach was still waiting for his master when the Starliner landed. Finally, after more than 700 years, there were human beings on Earth again. Eve hurried off to the trailer with Wally in her arms, followed by the cockroach. "Good luck, friend," said the captain to Wally. Then he took his first step onto Earth. Back home in the trailer, Eve desperately tried to put Wally back together. "Beep," said Wally, suddenly lifting his head slowly. Hooray! Wally was back. Or was he? "Wally?" Eve whispered softly. But he didn't recognise Eve. He didn't recognise anything. He even picked up some of his precious little treasure and started compacting them into cubes of scrap. "Wally!" Eve called again and again. She tried everything she could think of to bring him back. She even held his hand, but it seemed he was just an ordinary robot now. Eve leaned her head against his. This was goodbye. Wally was gone forever. But then, there it was, an electric spark, the robot kiss, and suddenly Wally was squeezing her neck, but her hand back. "Eva!" said Wally. "Wally!" answered Eve. Wally could hardly believe it. This was his dream. At last he was holding Eve's hand. Now life and love would once again be found on Earth, and it was all thanks to Wally and Eve. In future, Earth would be green again, and the humans would take good care of it. I believe that's the end. Yeah. That was really good, that was, wasn't it? Quite a long one. But that was really good. So if you like that story, click like, and if you'd like to see more, click subscribe. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Okay, bye-bye.